Welcome to today's episode of The Growth Zone. I am Christian Bartsch. What is the core benefit of listening to this show? Business leaders in corporate and privately held companies gain insights into trends and strategies that provide them with a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Each episode focuses on areas such as marketing, sales, innovation, or funding that is absolutely critical to the growth of companies, whether they are startups or corporate global players. Where management needs to juggle the challenges of market entries or knowing how to navigate the uncertainty of disruptive developments, mind feeding is where clarity evolves and helps solving organizational challenges. For those who listen to the entire episode, I have a special surprise gift. I'm also working on some great guests that are industry leaders in management, innovation, and marketing. And we will be talking in the future much more about the important trends that are affecting the way we manage our companies in the demand to being sustainable, more environmentally and socially friendly, and becoming more empathic leaders. So, let's get started on today's topic. Hello, and in this episode, we are going to talk about cyber attacks, which are costing businesses and consumers millions of dollars each year through ransomware, data breaches, and stolen funds. So, how do we prevent this? Investing? I'll be talking with Bryan Kuderna on this topic. So, Bryan, it's great to have you here on our show. And before we get started, I think it would be great if you could maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, hi, Christian. Thank you for having me on. And so, just a quick bio, I guess I could share. I'm a financial advisor, a certified financial planner by trade. I founded my firm, Kuderna Financial Team, in 2008. So, we do wealth management, investing, insurance for small business owners and high net worth clients around the country, being the US. And I'm also an author. I have 3 books. The most recent is called What Should I Do with My Money? Economic Insights to Build Wealth Amid Chaos, which was just published last month by McGraw-Hill. And I'm also the host of the Kuderna podcast, in which I discuss wealth in its original meaning, which I define as a state of well-being. And that's a little bit about me.
Great. I just looked up as well your book, and it looks literally great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm going to add it as well into the description of this podcast episode, so everybody who would like to have a peek at it can easily find it. I'm adding as well the ISBN code if you are not going to Amazon, but nevertheless. So let's have a look a little bit deeper. We've heard everywhere from the news and so on, cyber attacks and hacks and companies being hacked, governments being hacked, and consumers. And whether it's ransomware or people just trying to steal data, create havoc, and we have all sorts of different things happening around the world where people are, let's say, fighting each other in the cyber world, cyber warfare, and all these different things. But in the end, I think it does affect financially as well businesses and as well consumers all around the world, whether we are in Europe or in Asia or in USA, Canada, Mexico, South America, wherever, it doesn't matter. We are such an interconnected world where one place something happens and in the end it does affect everybody else. And so, Bryan, what have you made out of all your research and all the things that have been going about the last few years that got you to, let's say, write that book?
Sure. Yeah. So, the book, a lot of people think, oh, it's called What Should I Do with My Money? Obviously it's a personal finance book. It's actually more economic insights and looking at the interplay between macroeconomies, being governments, large corporations, just the environment that we live in today, and then microeconomies, which is our lives, our personal balance sheet, our household finances, our small business, and the like. And so that's pretty much the angle I attack the book and a lot of my research over the past few years from. Now, where technology found its way right into the center of this conversation is a few years ago, you may recall our Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, was on 60 Minutes, and he said the number one threat to our economy today is cyber. And I find that very ironic that this was right before inflation reared its ugly head and became, public enemy number one for the Fed. And then, of course, we've seen what inflation has done across the world, and then how we've had to react here in the States with rising interest rates and combating inflation, and then the damage it did to the stock and the bond market. So the point I'm making is just to put the context there that all anyone can think about is our economy and inflation and what's going on with, supply and demand. Yet right before all of that happened, kind of the guru of finance, our Fed chairman, said the number one threat is cyber. And so as I was right in the heart of writing my novel at that time, I said, you know what, that's exactly right. Tech invades every aspect of our lives, and it truly does connect all of us around the world. And so that's why I did put a chapter in my book just called Tech. And we start to explore, the impact that has on finances, big and small. And it truly is eye-opening, which I'm sure we can get into today.
Exactly. Absolutely agree, because even if you compare, a friend of mine who travels back and forth between Germany and Canada and USA, he even recently told me when he was in the countryside in Canada, an outback of Canada, if you can call it outback, he usually went to his usual store where he went just to buy butter, eggs, and something. And in the end, he paid 3 times what he usually would do. He would maybe spend for a nice week, maybe $20 on the same stuff. He bought exactly the same stuff, $60. And the craziness, it's everywhere in US or Germany, UK, and so on. Like, for instance, butter. Butter eventually became so expensive that was 3 times the price. Now,
Yeah.
just last week, the usually most expensive butter here, for instance, Germany, the most expensive butter that you see usually in the shelves pre-pandemic was always Kerrygold. Beautiful butter, nice and soft and everything. But it was always the most expensive thing. Something where you, of course, you say, okay, I'll treat myself to this. I don't need it, but I'll treat myself. Now, the funny thing, or let's say the surreal situation, is that is now the cheapest butter. German butter costs now 3 times more the price than Kerrygold. And that's insane. The
Wow.
same thing if you go to the UK and so on. There are different products that are totally upside down the price. Where I think, wait a minute, why is this more expensive now than the other one? It makes no sense. Canada,
Yep.
USA, I'm sure have the same insanity.
Yeah, that's economics. And so with it, to introduce tech and some of the concepts that I have in my book, there's two angles that I approach it from. One, and I won't give away everything in the book, but an overarching theme is what I call mice. Okay. And mice is something that I got when I was actually in high school. I was reading a book on the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, and their spies, and how their spies were trained to go invade, nefarious organizations or foreign governments, and really how they got behind enemy lines. And what they were taught was to use MICE, which stands for money, ideology, compromise, and ego. And so these were the four motives that they found that every human being possesses them, and they drive their decision-making process. So I said, okay, I'm going to essentially overlay MICE on my economic studies. And the reason I bring that up to tech is then we say, okay, as we dive into the world of technology, ultimately, what is the goal of technology? And the goal, I believe, is somewhat obvious, is to make everything faster. All right. So whether it's lines of communication, whether it's transactions and moving money around the world, whether it be travel, our work, Zoom meetings, this podcast that we're doing right now, how can we do things faster and through a path of least resistance? And again, all within the context of mice. Why are we using technology? Why are we using these tools? It's either for money, to pursue some ideology, to satisfy some compromise with the other side, or to placate our own ego, whether that might be likes on Instagram or, sharing a story on TikTok or whatever it could be. And so that, without giving too much of the book away, that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today is, where mice folds into economies, and then how technology has just made our world move at warp speed. And not to go on too long, but what I just wanted to say, and I'm happy to answer a lot of questions and stuff about this, but the chapter introduces 4 applications of technology. All right. And those 4 applications are mind persuasion, computer mind manipulation, anonymity, and then tech parts, the actual items, the actual raw materials that go into creating the technology that we all enjoy today. And so those 4 applications of technology are really what are guiding the industry, which is one of the most impactful industries in the entire global economy.
Yeah, that's true. Because just look at even at the damages that happen. You can use cybersecurity insurance in that, but it still won't cover all the damages when you look at that, for instance, in
Exactly.
that
Yeah. I mean,
aspect.
I
Yeah.
can go get a cybersecurity insurance policy maybe for $1 million or $2 million.
Mhm.
Um, but when you talk about a colonial pipeline or one of these huge attacks where now we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, that is almost inconceivable for an insurance company. Okay. And that's where you need a government backstop. And a lot of, what I researched as well is there's a lot of correlations to healthcare, where when we look at healthcare, at least how it works here in America, is it's not socialized, but it's not completely privatized. It's kind of this blend of a private public partnership where we say,
Mhm.
okay, the general public needs to have skin in the game to insure themselves, to take care of themselves. But we also need the government through Medicare, Medicaid, and the like, and Obamacare, to plug a lot of these gaps and some of these extreme costs. And I think that's what you're going to see start to unfold more and more around the world of technology, where you say, okay, we can cover, the guy that gets into your Facebook account, steals your identity, gets your credit card, and racks up $30,000 of charges. And we can have measures to go recoup that money. But what about when Target gets hacked and they steal, 1 million customers' identities, and then perhaps they use ransomware and all these other, applications so that they can steal, tens of millions of dollars and beyond. Now it becomes harder just for a private entity to address that concern. And so I think as it grows more and more complex, and as we get into crypto and a lot of the uses there needs to be government involvement, and there needs to be a baseline, in my opinion, where companies can offer the same level of security as different government agencies would be able to provide.
Exactly, and that's but often then is the problem. You haven't got enough staff to do it. You haven't getting the right people who can have the skills, let's say, to do all these different things. Even if you just look at cybersecurity, you need to have people who have got the right knowledge. You can't just go
Exactly.
to university, get a degree, and say, "Hey, now I can do this and this," and then the hacker comes, and that's always what I always enjoy, sort of telling sometimes some university professors say, "Hey." How many of your students, including yourself, would you actually be able to defend yourself against a hacker? Most of the hackers don't have university degrees. They have no PhDs, no professor titles. They haven't even seen a university from inside, but they get past all your security systems, all your student security systems, and so on, and ask, what are you not educating your people on? It's obviously something missing out. And that's when
Exactly.
you think of it, there are organizations, as well in the US, that train their people quite well and they're able to defend themselves, but it's not the regular education system. Mhm.
Exactly. And that comes back
Yeah.
to some of the motives again of what I go back to that mice,
Mhm.
and the first letter in mice being
Yeah.
M for money. That's
Yeah.
something that these hackers, yes, they may have some ideology. Perhaps they want to take down some organization they disagree with, or something to that effect. But usually the tool is always money. They want to get money as criminals, or they want to cause financial harm to that other company, which could eventually take them down.
Yeah.
So I think that, money kind of invades everything. If you follow the dollars, that explains a lot. And to what you were just saying, where you could have somebody, a kid in their basement on their parents' computer, hacking into the US government. And you're like, how is that possible? How do we keep up with all these threats out there? I just had a gentleman on my podcast the other day, and we were talking about the drug trade and how it seems like something that will always have this war on drugs, but it's something that we can never really get ahead of, or we can never beat, because it's like that game Whack-A-Mole where you take one out and then two more pop up to fill that void. And where we want to go about our lives and, grow our business and take care of our families and protect ourselves and be smart and so on, these nefarious individuals or organizations over there, they might be spending every waking hour saying, how can we kind of get through your gate and penetrate your system? And it's hard to put up enough firewalls to constantly protect yourself. And so that's why I said it seems like there does need to be a public-private partnership, where it's just like going into a parking garage and saying, okay, I can park my car here at the airport and I know I'm going to be safe for the next week. A business owner needs to be able to have that same level of security, or they're going to be hesitant to really use that entrepreneurial spirit and strike out on their own if they say there's these certain threats out there I can't keep up with. And, that can have really far-reaching economic impact.
Yeah, and especially when you think of it nowadays, most of the business is happening online. And I don't necessarily mean that people actually physically buy online, but every company has their products, their business, everything kind of information out there in the internet. And of course, we are using emails, we're using all sorts of other things. We have maybe chat systems, all sorts of stuff, social media, everywhere where we're practically being exposed to threats, where people can find some weakness, something is not set, there's some vulnerability, a WordPress plugin or any other little thing that just messes up our day. And then you're just busy trying to put out fires. And
Exactly.
your original daily plan has gone out over the window.
Yep. Yeah.
Lost the whole week.
Exactly. And a lot of these threats that you think about, while certainly lots of times it is that kind of genius in the garage working from their parents' computer, that type of image that we like to portray sometimes of like, how did they do it through their crazy algorithms and technologies and the like. But the other thing that happens is just the advantages, like I said, that technology brings to the table of speed and about doing everything quicker and faster. Well, that's an incredible advantage. It also poses an incredible threat. And I think we just saw that firsthand here with the failure last week of SVB, of Silicon Valley Bank. This was the largest bank collapse since 2008 and one of the largest bank collapses in history. And so you ask, how did it happen? Number one, all of the deposits that were with SVB, or almost all the deposits, were in the tech community. So it was either from tech companies or from venture capitalists who specialized in tech. So they had a very niche client base that was extremely wealthy, being, much of the tech sector in Silicon Valley. And so that's where a lot of the money came from in this bank. And then what happened? So last Wednesday, SVB needed to shore up their books. So they needed to raise $2 billion of capital. So once the word got out there, this in and of itself was not a big issue. This was something the bank had to do. Banks are struggling with now higher interest rates because a lot of their bond holdings or treasury holdings are worth less than they once were because the rates went up so quickly. So what happened, they said, we need to raise $2 billion of capital. Not a big deal. We could do that. But then the word got out that they were doing this. And then quickly, two of the largest venture capital consultants, who were also clients of this bank, immediately through their channels which were almost like private forums and emails to all these other clients of the bank, said, pull your deposits now. SVB is not going to be solvent. And just them sending out those emails, it was able to kind of ignite this fire where all of their clients in this very niche industry hit the panic button. And now what happened, because again, thanks to technology, it wasn't like they went to the bank and said, can I take out my $10 million deposit? No, they can literally go on their phone and you can transfer money in 5 seconds from one account to another. And that's what happened. And then before you know it, from Wednesday night to Thursday morning, you were witnessing a literal bank run that literally happened overnight. And then by Friday, the US government had to come in and shut down the bank because the position had gotten so dire for them. And I think that just shows a lot of people when they think tech and what are the threats, we think of cybersecurity, like we were talking about. Certainly, that's a huge one. But then you also think about just kind of the speed of a rumor, of just a negative thought, and how it can just catch like fire that moves too quickly, and you can't keep up with it. And then boom, we have a bank collapse like we just saw.
Yeah, and when you think the email is so easy, I think it was yesterday I had a call with a financial business. I had the problems with the emails and set the mail servers properly. And I explained to them, I can practically send an email on your behalf to your colleagues and tell them that you're giving out a round of beer and everybody should collect at the ground floor at the bar. And everybody then will complain to the person that, where is she? She should come down and pay for the beer. And they say, oh, I wouldn't like that. Exactly. That's why fix the problem very quickly. But these are the things. People don't take the time to look at these things, and then later on it happens. Yeah, it could have even been totally fake. The email, it would have crashed that bank without any problem. Yeah.
Yep.
It can happen to any small business. Small business, let's say you go and send an email that a certain supplier is obviously not able to supply or something, and then the companies go and cancel all the orders immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that's the modern world that we live in. You see it in everything from business, like we're discussing, to politics, where a rumor gets out. And again, now it's not like it was generations ago where you tell a couple friends. Now it finds its way onto the internet. Everybody and their brother knows about it. And it's like the damage is done. And you see that a lot in politics. You see it in entertainment, and a lot of public industries where then all of a sudden we find out, oh, that was just a story. There wasn't really truth to that. Someone made that up and then someone else validated it and then it went out to the world. And so then what do? We come out with, kind of an apology campaign. We were wrong. We shouldn't have said that. It wasn't completely accurate. Well, guess what? The damage is done. Over the past week, 1 billion people saw this story about some famous figurehead that was very negative, very inciting. And all the damage is done. And then you go back afterwards and maybe 1,000 people see that you're apologizing or even care about it. And these are the things that you just have to be worried about with technology. And
Exactly. Yeah, things are going so fast, and you haven't really a chance to really react or correct as quickly as possible.
yep.
Especially as well,
Yeah.
misinformation is a perfect tool nowadays to crash any competitor or something.
Sure.
Even if, let's say, a dishonest competitor, and you decide this dishonest competitor decides to kick you out of the market, or tell everybody, let's say, your airbags are blowing up and so on, and your car breaks down and they go and fire, then of course everybody says, "Oh, this company, their cars go on fire," and everybody who meets, and if you own that car, everybody says, "But are you not afraid of your car going on fire and so on?" And then exactly
Yep.
that rather nasty competitor then actually suddenly has a problem that their own cars go on fire. And that's a problem. And you see it in other different industries and so on. It's not just automotive, everywhere. It's
Yep.
unbelievable.
And that's where, like I talk a lot about financial literacy and economic literacy. That's why I wrote the book that I did. Again, what should I do with my money? But in regards to tech, and in that chapter, what I really champion is an urge and a want to see more computer literacy. And I think that that's something that should be, across the board for kids that are growing up in schools around the world. They should have some knowledge on computer literacy. And I talk a lot about this, that if you look at the curriculum today that kids are learning from, that my kids are learning, you look at the curriculum that I learned about when I was their age, and then you looked at the curriculum that my parents learned when they were teenagers, it's not all that different. You're learning a lot of your core subject of math, language arts, some basics of science, some history, important things. But you look at over, 3 generations, the way that our world has changed, it's night and day. It's an entirely new universe. And so I feel like we always lag a little bit, where now we're starting to see more financial literacy, which I'm really happy about, but we're not seeing a lot of tech literacy. And I think that both from just the actual use of like the STEM subjects and computer coding, things like that are great, but also the real basics. And so that goes back to what I reference in my book, the 4 applications. So you have mind persuasion. Okay. And what mind persuasion is, are these companies out there, these enormous companies with $1 billion, checking accounts, that can create these algorithmic guided marketing plans where they suck up all of this data and they get to learn you, and they know where you go, what you click on, what sites you go to, when you log on, what videos you're watching, how long you watch them for. And they really get to kind of put together a profile of like your technology avatar, if you will. And then they can use pinpoint accuracy for marketing, which is in essence kind of a form of mind persuasion. So it's not like generations ago where there was just a big billboard out there and you drive by it on the highway and maybe some people cared, other kids could care less if they saw it. Now, you can go onto Snapchat or to TikTok or Facebook or whatever it might be, and you're just getting inundated with these messages, which some of them might be good. It might help you get to that product that you want quicker, and it's got its novel use. And some of them, of course, could be negative. And I think especially when you speak about youth and what they're seeing in social media, it's scary in how powerful it is. And so mind persuasion, I just think that there should almost be a course or a part of the curriculum just educating people on what's out there. Computer mind manipulation is the second one.
Mm.
What that is AI. All right. So this is now where we're actually teaching the computers what to think and what to do. And you're seeing a ton about this with ChatGPT, things like that I've written articles on. You hear a lot about black boxes, which is kind of a scary thing. It's when you create, the AI, and then as its intelligence is increasing, it can start to reach areas or results, and then the creators, the humans behind it, don't even know how it got there, and it's almost like they can't unwind it. And that's where AI can almost get out of reach of what we created it for. And then the last 2 that I mentioned were on anonymity. All right. So it's harder to stay private in today's world, but for criminals, it can be easier to stay private. They're not walking into a bank personally with a mask on. They can be 10,000 miles away around the globe on their laptop, under some pseudonym that you can't even track, trying to steal your bank account. And then finally, you have the tech parts, which I think is key. And you're seeing this firsthand with what's going on with the U.S., China, and Taiwan with the semiconductors and the microchips, and it was not all that different from a couple of years ago when COVID happened. And you said, all right, what's the antidote for COVID? Where are we going to get these vaccines? Where are the raw materials coming from? And now we talk about technology. Where do the raw materials for tech come from? All right. China has 5 times more high-tech exports than the US does. All right. So they are way ahead of the curve in a lot of regards, in regards to this super high-tech materials that they're trying to use and take over those commodities to build really a new form of wealth. And so I think those 4 applications, again, mind persuasion, computer mind manipulation, anonymity, and tech parts. We need to get familiar with them, or else we're going to be behind the eight ball.
Yeah, that's true. Because when you look at even the simplest thing nowadays, now at the moment, there's obviously whether it's ransomware or whatever campaign behind it. People are getting now emails apparently from Facebook that some person reported the Facebook page and it's got blocked or whatever, and then you have to click on a button and so on. And they usually bullshit. And then when you if you hover with your mouse over the name Facebook at the top in your um, email client, then you will see, of course, that it's not actually coming from Facebook. It's coming from some website or some email domain somewhere at the moment it's Japan. I don't know why. I suppose the usual proxy game of the criminals. They don't need to be publicly visible. They use a proxy to redirect their attacks onto people in the Western world. Um, yeah, and that's the thing. When you think of it, for instance, we are now both talking about stuff in the public, talking about your books and other kind of things and so on. And at the same time, the criminals don't need to have publicity. They might even, and sometimes they might even benefit through the publicity that others do for them without them asking. Like telling
Exactly.
people, oh, you need to pay them the ransomware because otherwise you lose your money and so your data and so on and so on. And others say no, and the people are scared and are confused. And then you don't know which narrative to trust and what does the mind do. It just follows the simplest way.
Yep, exactly. Exactly right. So I think that's where everybody just needs to be a critical thinker. I think there can be some more education around the subjects. And, the uninformed are the ones that are ripe to be taken advantage of. Just like you mentioned with those emails. I mean, I get 5 of them a day. I even get the text messages now that are allegedly from Facebook or Amazon,
Yeah.
and they can look realistic. Oh, click here to verify this order or whatever. And then before you know it, you're downloading a virus, and things like that. That when you send that out to 1,000 people, it's almost like when you do an email newsletter. If you can just get a couple clicks, that's great. It's the same thing for the criminals, where if just a couple people are not paying attention, or they get actually baited in and they click these things, now all of a sudden, it opens up, the wasp's nest. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's there's so much here to talk about on tech.
Yeah, and the same thing as well with all these scammer call centers in certain countries who then call old people. They simply go by the phone directory, look for old-fashioned names, first names, and then immediately know, okay, this person can be from this to this age group. Perfect target. They'll get easily confused, so they target, of course, people beyond 60. Easy way to get the money, or the target certain people who in certain areas where they think, okay, they have no tech literacy, they don't know this, don't know that, and then just get them to hand over all the, let's say, the savings and that. Yeah, and it's partly as well through lack of tech knowledge, education, economics, and other kind of things.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm. So I hope your book will help people as well to clear a bit of the chaos as well that sometimes might be in their minds when they're not sure what to do in certain situations.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is just stay informed. That's really the purpose of my book. You have 250 pages there. It's almost like a sledgehammer of economic information and ways to just enhance your decision making and thought processes, so that you can be a critical thinker and a critical decision maker in a lot of ways. And really to increase your wealth, which I always say it's a state of well being. How do you do that? Think about mice. I like these acronyms because I think it simplifies things. How are you addressing your money issues? What's your ideology? Your guiding light that you want to follow? What's the impact you're having? And then compromising with those around you, and then controlling your ego. And if we can do all of those things, I think that's where we can find that nice balance in life that we're all searching for. So hopefully my book can do that. And, I think it'll just also give a lot of context. We have I think a lot of us kind of fall prey to living right here in the moment. which is normal. We want to stay in the present, and we're getting it just blasted with info daily. But a lot of my book, we do a lot of historical insights, and we start to realize, over the thousands of years of mankind, we've always had just kind of the same motives, the same urges, the same problems in a lot of regards. So I think, once we start to realize that, and that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that when new things come about, new technologies, or now cryptocurrency, just to take things in stride, don't resist everything, but it's okay to question everything, and at least get comfortable with what's out there. Because as a financial advisor, that's where I see a lot of mistakes happen. And not to get on my soapbox here, but a lot of people, they feel like they're overwhelmed with this information, or they're overwhelmed with the current economy. So either A, they throw their hands in the air and they say, I give up. I'll follow the latest fad. I'll do what everybody else is doing. And then usually that's where you can find a lot of financial harm. Or they might say, on the flip side, I want to know everything about everything. And then they can drive themselves crazy and have, paralysis by analysis, trying to learn every nook and cranny as they resist every advancement in our economy. So we need to find that happy medium there. And I hope that that's what my book helps a lot of people do.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I just wanted to mention as well that I saw that your book is as well available as not only as paperback, but it's as well as on Kindle and Audible. I just checked out, which
Yep.
is a great thing, because I sometimes in evenings like to listen to audiobooks, because in the evenings I'm sometimes too tired to read, but in the mornings I like reading. So in the evening I always I listen to a different book, and what I enjoy is usually listening as well to the author. When the author has spoken, it's of course great, because sometimes you get some extra insights. And did you record the audio yourself, or do you have somebody speaking for you in the book?
Yeah, that's funny that you bring that up. I would have been willing actually to narrate my book, but my publisher, McGraw-Hill, what happens is they're a huge international company, of course,
Yeah.
and they sell the rights to the book in different formats, to different arms of their own company, whether it's to, the Japanese division of McGraw-Hill or wherever it might be. And they did that with the audio, long story short. So the company that actually recorded my book is not McGraw-Hill. They did get an Emmy award-winning actor to actually read the book, but it is
Wow.
not myself. So people who know me, and if they're listening and they're like, oh, this doesn't quite sound like Bryan and his tone, it's not, unfortunately, I'm not really connected to the audio version other than just providing the content. But
Yeah.
it's for authors out there, it's an interesting experience of
I
what they
see.
can do with their book.
The narrator is Kent Kleinman. Or
Correct.
Kleinman. I don't know. How do you pronounce his name?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't want to mispronounce it, but I think one of the funny things is we sound quite different. So a lot of people that think, oh, I know Bryan, I know what he's saying. And then it's almost like it's a different tone. It's a different narrator. So it's the same
Yeah.
book, but it can almost sound a little bit different. So, I'd love to hear what people think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just always look and see. Sometimes some books I get myself. I've sometimes as well even listened to the books first in Audible, and they don't got the paperback, because then I thought I want to read this extra section and mark it and so on, and copy out stuff for my own notes to think about certain things. And that's a great thing when you've got both options, which is I think quite a good advantage, because sometimes, especially if you're flying or somewhere, you can listen to the audiobook when you can't carry so much stuff. But most of the time, you will have your phone with you and your headsets and so on. And then you just quickly just go and get it and listen to it. And later on, you think, oh, I need to read it now and
Yep.
paperback and check out this chapter again. And that's a great opportunity. So
Yeah.
as
I was
I
very grateful
mentioned,
that they were able to do that.
yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'll add as well into the description as well the link to Amazon, so you can so people can find the book, and as well the ISBN if they want to order the book at their local bookshop and so on, I'll add that everything. So it's easy for everybody to find. Besides the book, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they get in touch? Do you have a website, or how is it?
Yep. Yeah. So anyone can stay in touch with me if they just go to bryankuderna.com. So that's my first name, last name.com, BRYANKUDERNA.com. They can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. It's just my name, or the handle's B Kuderna. So send me a tweet. I'm always happy to keep in touch. And you can even sign up for my newsletter anywhere as well. It's called Weekly Wealthy Wisdom. WWW, that comes out every week, just jam-packed with some information to get your week started. So yeah, I hope to connect with you.
Cool. Wonderful. So it was great having you here on the show, Bryan, and I'm sure someone in the future will be discussing other topics. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Christian, and let's keep in touch.
So after you've heard the current episode, I would like to just make a few remarks. So you've been listening to all the different episodes that I've been publishing, and I've been giving you quite some nice advice here and there. I've had some guests that you might have listened to and thought, that's really interesting, and I should do this, I should do that. And okay, I've made a list, but how do I do it? Now, that's a tricky thing. I went to many courses over the last, let's say, 30 years or so, whether it was in IT, marketing, backlink, marketing, SOE, Google advertising, and so on and so on. So many things you can learn. It's crazy, especially if you are not a marketing agency, but you have a small business, medium-sized business, or you've just bought a company and you think, okay, I have to take it over and have to improve the marketing. I want to increase the revenue and so on. It can be quite tricky. There are different areas. So we have to, of course, at the beginning, focus on one platform where we're going to do our marketing and sales activities. So the first platform, especially if you are in B2B, which means you are selling services or products to companies, you should go and focus on LinkedIn, not Facebook, Meta, TikTok, and so on. That's no point. Yes, there are people there who are usually working as well in companies who might be your buyers. But in this case, I would say you're wasting your energy and your resources. So best thing and the simplest thing, if you want to get started properly, is focusing on LinkedIn and building up your profile, your content, and all these things. Now, I released recently a book based on all the stuff that I've been doing myself, that I've shown as well other entrepreneurs how to get it done. Because the thing is, you can spend so much money on people telling you, you have to do this and you have to do that, selling you courses, selling you all sorts of crazy stuff. I once had a marketing agency. They sold me a service where the artificial intelligence was supposed to get me more leads than I was getting now already on Google Ads. And it was supposed to cost me less. The end result was I didn't get a single lead. Of course, then I didn't make any sales, but the cost actually increased. And I compared it with my campaign that I was running at the same time for a different region. And I was doing fine. Eventually, I had to kill that contract and do it myself as well for that region. And my numbers were then suddenly totally different. So that's interesting when you think of that. Sometimes people are selling you stuff that's just for the advantage of them. There are plenty of great marketing agencies out there who can do a really good service for you. And I've used some of them. And they're great people to work with and deliver value and as well a great revenue. Some of them, I would even say, when they touch something, it becomes gold. But even they have the limitation. And if they cross the limitation border, there's no revenue return, or let's say no return of investment. And that's how I think. Nevertheless, this book, it's called Social Marketing, Reaching Your Audience so they can buy from you with trust. Trust is very important in the buyer situation, and whether you sell online, on the phone, whether you're selling in person somewhere, you're on a stage, or you're selling, you've met people and then you're selling them through Zoom or Teams or whatever kind of platform. It doesn't matter. If you do not have their trust, it doesn't matter what you're selling, whether you're selling boots, stickers, models, aircraft, computer servers, phone systems, insurance policies, it doesn't matter. You are not going to generate enough revenue to survive. So this book, you can get it on Amazon worldwide as paperback, ebook, of course, and hardcover. You can get it in the US, Canada, Australia, Germany, all over Europe, even Australia, even printed in Australia, which is an awesome thing. And let me tell you just the ISBN. I'm going to put it as well in the comments because some of you might get it wrong. Last time I did as well, the wrong number. So the ISBN code for the edition 2022, because I keep updating it every year, it's 9798 488 609907. Social marketing, reaching your audience so they can buy from you with trust. Simple to identify, black cover at the front, at the top you see a social media icons, and there's a variety of other extra material I created as well. I have added as well as an add-on that you can get as well from Amazon, a social media planner. Makes it easier to be a bit consistent, because if you start doing these things and you don't have the space to have like whiteboards and all the things, you lose track. It's normal. You can't otherwise avoid it. So the planner is nice and easy. It's a letter format, A4 format, depending where you order it. And then you can nicely fill it out. There's as well a smaller version, as well a pocket version, which I like as well, because you can always take it with you. And if you're traveling, you always find space. Now, this book is actually quite heavy. And that explains as well, step by step, how to do the things, not only what you have to do, but how and why. That's so important. People keep telling them, hey, you have to do this and you have to do that. And then they show you flashy stuff and they don't actually explain why. Now, this book has 252 pages. Crazy when I think of it, how much stuff. And it's really filled. There are no white pages. At least I don't see any here. And lots of screenshots, pictures, and I've as well marked where you have to click on things, make it much easier for you. I firmly advise you, if you want to do these things sincerely and properly for yourself, get yourself the paperback, because what I usually like, I take these sticker markers, these stickers that are different colors, and then I stick them in the books. I'm reading at the moment a book about cybersecurity, and there I mark as well different pages like that, and it's for me easier as well to find things. And on these stickers, you can write as well some codes and so on. Makes it a bit easier to keep track. And the paperback is printed in grayscale. The hardcover is color. So if you want to have color and see the pictures in color, then spend a few dollars more and you'll get the color version. Of course, you can go and get the paperback and then afterwards the ebook if you want to see exactly how the stuff looks in color. The ebook is well an alternative, but I would take foremost the paper version. Just easier as well to make marks in it, and you can remark or put a paper in and helps you to keep focused. So use that. It should make things much easier for you, because the book really shows you how to do the things, why, what to look out, which mistakes to avoid, and then you can do it all by yourself. And I'm applying all these things in the book as well. I'm showing as well some advanced thing, because at a certain point you change your strategy, but that's all shown in the book. And just do it. Simple. When you think of it, it's crazy. I think the book costs, I think it's $20 or $19, $25. I'm not quite sure. The paperback, the hardcover is more expensive, of course, different print. But yeah, so enjoy it. Get it on Amazon online. You can get it otherwise. Barnes & Noble has it as well in the US. I think Waterstones in the UK has it, and some other retail. Otherwise, with the ISBN codes, you can as well go to a local bookshop and order it to them when you have the ISBN. But the easiest thing, go on Google or look as well on my profile website. I've got meetchrisbarch.com. There you will find as well all the other books I added, and I'm adding some more books step by step and some little guides that I use as well for myself, time planner and things. Makes life easier. You don't have to reinvent everything, but I like adjusting them so that it fits more to the way I do it. And it's, I think, more convenient. Fits. So just go and get the book and work through it. Put marks and get yourself for a good start. And even if you've already started your business, increase the level, how you look at and how you let others perceive you. You will notice it increases your outgoing way, and saves you a lot of pain. Tire kickers and all the other things that you dislike in those platforms means if you approach it professionally in all kind of matters, you have less of those issues, but you have to keep to it. Simply follow the guides and the tips and so on in the book. It's 252 pages. You can't go wrong. It's a lot of text. Took me a long time to write, but yeah. I have some friends in Toronto as well who are using it, and in UK, South Africa, and so on. They're all applying it and quite happy because they just need the book. And if they have some questions, of course, you can ask me. But I think the book answers it pretty well. Yeah, you could do it all by yourself. So see you or hear you soon, and have a great day. I hope you enjoyed today's edition of The Growth Zone show with Christian Barch. Thank you for listening. Please leave a review or rating here on iTunes or on podchaser.com. If you found the content helpful, then share it on social media, please. I would like to invite you to follow our show so that you don't miss the upcoming interviews with leaders in the market. Simply visit the website meetchrisbarch.com. I will be adding the link into the description of this episode so that you just need to click on that link. On my website, you will also find the links to free templates. If you're looking for the books I have published on marketing, innovative technology, and sustainable business strategies, just simply click on publication to find my book list. The world is constantly changing in response to trends and events. As a business leader, you need to bypass the sandbanks that can hurt your performance. For those of you who are signing up to follow the show, I have reserved a few copies of my ultimate guide on content marketing and an ESG compliant cheat sheet. This is the strategy that got me top corporate clients like McDonald's, Linde, Hewlett-Packard, Deutsche Bank, Volvo, and many others. That strategy has been working for over 10 years and also got me contacts with police, transport authorities, military, and several universities, and even leading research institutes. For sure, it also worked wonders as it got me many small, medium-sized enterprises and international clients around the world. The link to sign up to our free broadcasting service and the guide is at meetchrisbarch.com. That will give you access to the most recent versions of my ultimate guide on content marketing. You can follow me on Twitter by using the Twitter handle capbarch. It's spelled CAPBARTSCH. Yes, that is CAP Barch, or spelled Charlie Alpha Papa Bravo Alpha Romeo Tango Sierra Charlie Hotel.